Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture just to see how those incidents affect our daily lives. Listen, we back with our show, y'all. We back with the Black Hamptons. Woo! I don't have a theme song for that, but honey, this is a little show that could. This is a little show that could. You know what this means? There are going to be notes read off my pad of the eye. I'll sit it up so I can see it better. Right here. Let's see. Make sure that it's right there. I can see my notes. I can see my notes. I can see my notes. Let me tell y'all what y'all getting ready to see. We are reviewing the Black Hamptons. And we're going to recap episode 3 and 4. Episode 3 is entitled Legacies and Lies, with episode 4 being titled Winners Win. Now, I was behind on the episodes, and I went to watch, I guess, episode 5, and I don't see it. I don't know if these 4 episodes are the whole kit and caboodle, because BET Plus says new episodes, but I've seen all 4 of those episodes. I was assuming that episode 5 comes. So whenever episode 5 drops, that's when we're going to review it. If this is it, then this is it. Not sure, but honey, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So let me go through this slide because I'm going to have to get y'all who I'm talking about. All right, so this is the Britton family. Okay. Now, Black China is not playing a Briton. She is actually playing she is a Johnson. She is a sister of Anthony. She's a sister of Sidney Johnson. But I have her in this slide because I have Martin in this slide. But anyway, let's get to them. So on the top right, I guess it's top right, with the white hat on. That's Vanessa Bell Calloway, and she plays Carolyn Britton. Also up top, you see Jesse Britton. He is the son of the man in the middle, who is Malcolm. With black in the picture with Black China is Martin Britton, and over on the other side is Vanessa Britton. Okay, so do I have Kimberly? Let me find this slide. All right. You see Jessica Freeman down at the bottom. She is playing Kimberly. Now, let's talk about Malcolm and Kimberly. Malcolm is basically, this is episode 3. Malcolm is basically discussing with Kimberly what his plans are for the day, making sure everything goes well. Because he wants to make sure that what they have planned for today goes off without a hitch. And then they're all going to breakfast. They go to breakfast. You see Carolyn, you see Jesse, you see Malcolm, and you don't see Martin. Martin walks in with Karen. And that's Black China's character. Honey, they all smiles because, they done had a good date the night before. And that date done ended up with them being in his mama's home. And I guess they spent the night at the mama's home. Honey, they walked to the breakfast table. Martin wants to have a seat made for her. Honey, Miss Carolyn was like, wait a minute, I don't know what you're doing. She told Corinne, I don't know who you are and how you was raised and where you from. And Corinne says she's from Bed-Stuy. She says, but you don't spend the night with somebody's house and then come to have breakfast with their mother in the same dress you came in here with. That's not appropriate. Truth. Martin is in his feeling. He's upset because basically Carolyn tells her in no nice way, you need to get up from out here. You're not going to sit, put your legs up under my table knowing that you done been upstairs doing what you doing. And you think you'll put your stinking nasty butt up under my thing. Wearing the same doggone clothes unnecessarily. You could at least changed. Now, I agree with Carolyn. Her delivery was awful, but that's her house and she can deliver it the way she wants to. Martin gets upset and that she has run Corinne off, and then he goes after her because he's having to apologize the way his mother acts. So you see in the next episode, we see the Reverend and we see Anthony. They're getting ready to go fishing, and they run into Jeffrey. Now, Jeffrey is being played by the Brian White character. Let me see if I got him. Yeah, I gotta go through these slides. Jeffrey is being played by the Brian White character, who was up here with the red shirt around his neck. Also, side note, I don't know why the actor Mr. White doesn't allow for them to fade his hair around the sides, because everything is so thick it almost looks like it's fake. Because they're not fading, fading his side and fading the back. They're not fading any of that, and maybe that's how he likes to wear his hair, but that's neither here nor there. Um, he runs into Anthony and Reverend what is the Reverend's name? I'm just gonna call him Reverend. Now, if you remember my recap from the last episode, Anthony met with the Simpson man and brokered a deal to buy the property for $8 million. And so they're running into Jeffrey Bowen at this point, because Jeffrey Bowen has been undercut, and he knows he's been undercut because Jeffrey has been trying to make sure that he can push that deal towards the Britons. And with Anthony, who is played by Lamont Record, let's get to him. Here go Anthony. Anthony decides that he's going to make his own deal. He's going to go around and make his own deal, in which he did. And Jeffrey was not too pleased with that. He was like, he was talking to them, but he was making sure the Reverend heard him. And he told the Reverend, well, we don't want this to be another episode of the Petersons. And he calmly walks away. And I'm like, who the hell are the Petersons? And why did he bring them up calmly? And so Anthony asked the Reverend, who are the Petersons and what's going on? And apparently the Petersons was a family that had some friction with the Britons. Apparently they bought a boat that Moses Britton, who has not been seen on the show, but he has been told to be Carolyn's husband. I thought he was deceased, but we'll find out that he's not deceased. He's just not in play at this moment. But anyway, the Petersons bought a boat that the Britons want. Basically, what they did is that they just kind of ruined him. They bought the mortgage for their home because they're on a bank. Remember, the Britons own a bank, the Amistad. He bought the mortgage out, and then they went in business with his biggest competitor to put him out of business. And so with all of that, Mr. Peterson killed himself, and then that was the end of the Petersons. And so Anthony is starting to realize, okay, wait a minute, hold up. All that was just business. But he realizes that the Britons do not play business like that. They make everything seem personal. So he's starting to take note that, hey, these people are a little bit shady. They're taking things a little too personal, and we're going to have to watch this. Baby, we're just going to go through some things. I'm not going to hit everything that happened because I want you to watch the episode. We have a scene with Martin and his brother, and he's kind of lamenting and being mad about what his mother did. And basically Malcolm told him, you knew better than that. If you were going to entertain this woman, that was what the yacht's for, and that's what the condo's for. You don't bring her home to mom. So Martin is okay with that. So then let's just get real quick into Everett Simpson. I didn't get a picture of him. Let's see. I have a picture of Everett. But anyway, Everett Simpson, the one that's selling the land, he is very, very happy that he played out this situation the way it was. He didn't go straight to Carolyn. He was telling Jeffrey, he was like, look, I'm really glad that you brokered this deal for me. That's $8 million. That's almost twice as much as I'm asking for. I'm very, very happy about that. And then Jeffrey says, now, you know how she is, talking about Carolyn. Why would you do this knowing how they are? And he's like, look, I got to get the best deal that I can get. That's why I did it the way I did. Now, you remember that Jeffrey is married to Carolyn's niece. And Carolyn's niece is trying to do what Carolyn wants him to do. And so she's been upset with her husband, Jeffrey, because he has been brokering deals with the Johnsons. So she ends up brings Carolyn to the home, and Carolyn goes off on Simpson. She threatens him with something, and he's like, look, I got a better deal. Unless you're getting ready to match the deal, I don't want to have anything to talk about. So let's get into these people, because I think what I'm going to do is just kind of go over their little plot line, because it is their little plot line, because they we'll just do their little plot line real quick. The young man in the middle is named Peter. The man on the left, the right, is his father, Sergeant Lane. Remember, he is the police officer liaison for Sag Harbor, which houses the Black Hamptons. And over the young lady up here is Tanya. Now, Tanya and Peter are dating, but their relationship is rocky. Now, remember in the last episode, Sergeant Lane caught Tanya and Jesse. Let me see. Let me find no Jesse. Jesse, the young man up here at the top, he caught Tanya and Jesse in bed together, but apparently he has not told Peter about that, because Peter is a boxer and he's trying to keep Peter focused on boxing. Well, when this episode opened, in this episode, we see Tanya and we see Peter arguing all the time. And he, when Peter has time for Tanya, he wants Tanya to be available to him. And she's basically saying, you don't have any time for me. Even when I ask you to have time, your boxing is important. I understand that. I'm fine with your boxing being important. But since you don't have, I guess it's the summertime. And if you don't have time for me, you don't have time for me. And instead of them being adults about it and saying, look, we need to let this go. That's not what's happening. It's all this tension. So Peter has time for her that night. And I think he's working too. Child, I think it's his lunch hour. He has time for her on his lunch hour, and he wants Tanya to hang out with him during his lunch hour. She's like, no. She's like, you have not had any time for me at any other time, and now that you've got an hour for me, you think I've got time for you tonight. They get to arguing, and then he just leaves her, and she's on the harbor. Well, Jesse sees them arguing. He comes up to her. He says, hey, do you want to hang out tonight? She's like, no, I can't hang out tonight, but I can hang out tomorrow night. Now, tomorrow night is July 4th. And tomorrow night is July 4th. Jesse invites her to the July 4th bash. She accepts. Everything is good. Now, we get back to Anthony, because you remember the last episode, he was able to get a deal with Sing Corporation. He signs those papers and he's good going into the 4th. Now, what he doesn't realize is that Carolyn and Malcolm and Martin have talked to Mr. Singh, and they are brokering a deal with Mr. Singh. Basically, there's a company that Mr. Singh wanted, and they were able to broker that deal for him if he lets go of his deal with Anthony. So since they brokered that deal at a great price, he's able to buy a company. He no longer needs Anthony, because he can buy this company and have the research and development company do what he wants them to do. So that brokers the deal. This happens on the 4th. Everybody's enjoying the 4th. Martin's out there with the water dance people. I don't know exactly what you call it. Corinne and Martin solidified their love. They're talking about long-term relationships. We also see what's his name? Morgan. I didn't get a picture of Morgan. Morgan has come down because apparently what we find out is that Malcolm is bisexual. So he is in a relationship, a sort of relationship with Morgan, but he sleeps with his ex-wife on a continual basis. Apparently, Morgan has given Malcolm an ultimatum. Apparently, Morgan is dating another gentleman, and this other gentleman is wanting to marry Morgan, and also wants to celebrate their relationship out loud. Morgan tells Malcolm, look, I can't beat that with the stick. Malcolm's like, you love me and stuff like that. He says, but you don't want to love me out. You want to love me in the dark, and I'm sick of that. He says, so either you love me out or I'm gone. Now, Kimberly. Let's go back to Miss Kimberly. See where we can find Miss Kimberly at. Lower lady on the bottom, that's Kimberly. She is the assistant to Malcolm and Martin. She overhears what Morgan and Malcolm are talking about. I can't really tell where her loyalties are. I don't know if she likes Malcolm or not. I'm not really sure. But she goes back and she tells Carolyn what's going on. And Carolyn knows that her son is bisexual. And she does not want that to come out in the open. She doesn't want him to be open out loud, being going with Morgan. And so basically what she does is that since she has the power to do so, she holds a lot of things over their head. What she's told, basically what she told Malcolm is that if he doesn't marry his ex-wife Vanessa, right there, Miss Vanessa, if he doesn't marry his ex-wife Vanessa, he's going to no longer be the CFO or CEO of the Amistad Corporate Bank. And so he weighs against that, and he decides that that's what he's going to do. We no longer see Morgan, so we don't know what the results was, because Malcolm never did go back and talk to Morgan. We see that, you remember last episode, Vanessa invites Anthony to the Wyclef Jean concert. They go to the Wyclef Jean concert, and even Vanessa gets Anthony backstage to meet Wyclef. Now, before he goes off to his concert, his wife, Sydney, Anthony's wife, Sydney, is like, I'm sad that you're going to the concert without me, but I'm okay about it. And she kind of gives him a little parting gift before he goes. Because she said she don't ever let her man go out without making sure that he good as far as with sex. I guess if he's drained, he's not going to have sex with nobody else, I guess. So let's see. Where are we? I told you everybody enjoyed the 4th. Talked about that. So Carolyn announces at the table that Vanessa and her son are going to get married. She announces at the table that they're going to get married, and the son is all excited. That's Jesse. He wants to be the best man. All of that's in place. Now, remember, Carolyn had Vanessa seduce Anthony, right? So apparently, we get to the next day of the concert. We see Sydney and her son are calling the police or talking to Sergeant Lane, because she said, she's been calling her husband. She has no idea where he's at. She said he did not come home last night, and she's really worried. Sergeant Lane tells her we have to do a 20, he has to be missing for 24 hours. And then Karen, her sister, decides to say, oh, well, I saw him on the beach. And he was like swaying and moving and stuff like that. But, that's the last time I saw him. And Sydney's like, well, why didn't you say anything? She's like, well, that's your husband and that's your problems. Now, I don't know if I mentioned in the last video is that Karen has an issue with Anthony because she tried to seduce him and he did not take the bait. And so Anthony really don't want her in the house. And so she knows that there's that tension. She knows she did wrong, but she just has this little sense of she can do what she wants to do and then use her sister to give her money. Because you remember, her sister would give her $1,000 here and $1,000 there. So in other words, she just feels like she almost feels like she's entitled to their riches. But she's on a quest. Excuse me, y'all. It's hot in here. She's on a quest to try to find her rich man, and she's found that in Martin. But she I don't know what it's a tension. Sydney seems to have forgiven her, but she hasn't forgiven Karen hasn't forgiven Anthony, in which he doesn't have to forgive you, Karen, for the stupidness you pull just because you wanted your way. I mean, because you could have literally ruined your sister's marriage trying to seduce her husband. But I don't know why that's okay, and I don't even know why she feels like she should be up there in the house. And I don't know why Sydney don't check her. She checks everybody else, but she don't check her sister. And I hope it's not one of those situations where their mama told you, take care of my baby, and you feeling obligated to make sure that a grown woman is doing what she needs to do. But that's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother thing. Anyway, I think that's pretty much the end of episode 3, and I have gone into episode 4. So basically, let's try to do this in 10 minutes. So basically, Carolyn wants progress about how Vanessa is seducing Anthony. Carolyn chose her, excuse me, Vanessa shows her, tells her to go to the gossip rag to see that she took a picture with him, and that's progress because she's really wanting to mess up this marriage. Anthony comes home. Anthony tells her that, he fell out on the beach. Sydney is upset. She's like, you supposed to have called. He said, look, I think I was Mickey'd at a party because I don't remember none of this. And he said somebody, oh, sorry y'all. He said that he thinks somebody drugged him at the party because he doesn't remember any of the stuff. He don't even remember the concept. And anyway, he got a message on his phone, and it's Wyclef who's doing something with the phone or doing something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but he's very impressed with this mobile phone that Anthony has a patent for. Mr. Singh, in the middle of Anthony and his wife measuring the property out to put a pool, Anthony gets a call from Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh cancels the deal, and Anthony is upset because him going on Mr. Singh's word, he started putting things in place and started doing some productions and all this other stuff, which causes for them to deplete some of their money and their capital. So now that the deal has gone through, they've got all this work, they've got all these people that has depleted his capital. And it's to the point where, if he don't sell some of his assets, he could lose his business. It's even to the point where I think he's got like 10 or 20 patents. They were even talking about selling off some of these patents because, that's how bad their business is floundering. And it's to the point that if they buy that property, if they buy that house, it basically almost will bankrupt them. I mean, that piece of property will bankrupt them because they're going to sell it at $8 million, and that $8 million is needed to stop the bleeding. So he has to tell his wife that he can't buy the property. Mr. Simpson has been told that the properties are going to be brought by the Britons at the selling price. We also find out, what's his name? Jeffrey. Jeffrey goes over and he tells Carolyn what the deal is. We find out the reason why Carolyn wanted to buy that property, and it's basically because her family owned that property, but they couldn't keep up with the bills and all the other stuff, and so it had to be sold, and the Britons bought it. And so she wanted that property to be in her family and be in her family's name. You see that Tanya is woken up with old Jesse. And Jesse tells her, look, I want more than just being a sneaky link. And he's like, you're having issues and you're having problems with Peter. I don't want us to continue in a relationship until you handle that. So she breaks up with Peter via text. So we already know how Peter feels about her. And we also know that his father hadn't directly told him that he saw Tanya with Jesse. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but Peter is angry and he wants Tanya, but he don't have time for Tanya. You know how that goes. And so I think that there's a buildup going on there. Child Martin is pissed off at his mama, and he decides that he gonna move out because he wants her to accept his relationship with Karen. And she tells him no. She says, because you don't have the sense the Lord gave you. You always lead by your penis, and you always fall in lust with these people. You don't ever fall in love. And then when we try to tell you what's going on, you get mad and you get in your feelings. So he leaves. He has a date with Karen. I'm going to be going back calling her Corinne and Karen, but she says her name is Karen. Baby, they are out on the date. I mean, just living it up, spending money, having a good old time. Find out that Carolyn done canceled all his credit cards. I mean, his no limit cards. She has canceled a whole bunch of his stuff. But he had sense enough to have cash with him, so he had enough cash to pay the bill. Baby, he goes back to Carolyn tomorrow. Why are you being so mean and doing all this other stuff, all this psychological warfare? She's like, no. She says, you don't listen. She says, if you want her, you're going to have to, you have no longer have any access to your trust fund. And so, because I didn't realize that he had a trust fund. And she says, you have no longer have access to it. So you either choose your trust fund or you choose the girl. So, you know how that happens. They want the money more than they want the people. So he ends up has Kimberly to evict her off the yacht. Crazy. Baby. So you think now here is the part, and I wanted to kind of spend a few minutes on that as far as with the plot and what's going on. I don't know if this was the editing because I couldn't understand. Anthony has been very upset about the deal. He's been very upset about the fact that he's lost that deal. He's been very upset that he has had to disappoint his wife because she can, she's working on trying to sell the home. And he calls her. And when he calls her, it sounds like he is so upset that he's almost suicidal. And the way he's talking to her is like, everything is bad, and I don't know what I'm going to do. But prior to calling his wife, he called Mr. Singh to see if there was any way that they can redo this deal. Mr. Singh tells him no. So the reason why I said this is editing, because there was no call or anything. We find out through a flashback that Vanessa has gotten Anthony hooked up with Wyclef John. And because she hasn't hooked up with Wyclef John, Wyclef has him hooked up with Mr. Cora, who is a billionaire. And Anthony then has the ability to make a deal with the billionaire for the phones. So, but I couldn't understand because he was running in the water like he was trying to commit suicide. His wife is running, Anthony. And then he comes out like he's been baptized. Baby, we gonna run this town. Baby, we got this and everything. And I was like, that was some bad editing right there, because it made you think that he was so upset because he heard that Mr. Singh wasn't going to do the deal, that he was going to off himself. And then what we find out was that it looks like a baptism. He got in the water and said, ain't nobody finna mess with me or anything like that. So it seems like there should have been another phone call. He should have been down in the dumps. There should have been a phone call. Mr. Core said everything is all right. We're gonna be working and doing ever. It's instead of the way it ended. But that didn't seem that editing part didn't seem good. And lastly, what we find out is Carolyn is extremely happy. Carolyn is extremely happy that she got that land. She does a toast to her parents because apparently they have gone on to glory, and she's all excited. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Baby Jeffrey walks up and he's like, good news. And she said, what are you talking about? He said, the charges against your husband, the prosecution has dropped the charges against your husband, and he is going to be coming home. And baby, if you'd have seen Carolyn's face, it looked like somebody had told her her dog had died. She looked shook. So apparently, if Carolyn is a mess, Moses Britton must be off the daggone chain. Now, so let me just do my little recaps. I think Anthony is going to be a good nemesis for them. I don't know if Moses is going to get on board with Carolyn's shenanigans or not. Also, I do want to see the dynamic between Malcolm and Moses, because I don't know if you remember the last episode, they were playing tennis, and Malcolm got real upset that the guy was telling him about who's your daddy, who's your daddy. So I want to see that dynamic. I want to see that dynamic between Martin and his father, and I want to see who is his favorite. I'm thinking that Martin is his favorite because Malcolm seems to have issues with his father. And listen, the father is coming back. Do you all think that he's going to push Malcolm out of the position? Y'all let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you're coming. Are y'all watching? I hope you are. If you're not, I'm glad you listened to my recap. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I really do appreciate you all rocking with me on my channel. Y'all, I'm at 96 subscribers. We are on that quest for 100. Once we get to 100, I'm going to do a little, I guess maybe I'll do a little live party. Let's see. Let's get us to 100. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified for any other videos. Y'all, Thursday, our show is coming back, Atlanta. We will be reviewing that show. And as always, people, bye-bye.